The AP poll decided to go ahead and just say, we don't know ball on a couple of huge, giant deficiencies. We're going to talk about where Georgia's ranked, what that means, and what the AP poll missed next. Locked On Bulldogs.
You are Locked On Bulldogs, your daily podcast on the Georgia Bulldogs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Locked On Bulldogs podcast. He is Clint. I am Daniel. Thank you so much for making us your first listen. Thanks to the everydayers out there. And thanks to Factor Meals, factormeals.com/lockedoncollege50. It just jumped away as fast as I could say, but I got it. And FanDuel, thanks to FanDuel for bringing you today's episode. We love FanDuel, and next week we're going to be talking about ways that you can make the money on FanDuel. You realize that we are single, Clint, digits away from football. Not Georgia football yet, but single digits away from football in the world, in the ether. It is, you can feel it coming in the air tonight. And one of the signs that college football season is close is the emergence of the AP poll. The AP poll comes out. I think everybody knows by now that the college football playoff rankings are the only rankings that matter, right, Clint? Is that something that people know?
No, literally.
Do people know that?
No, they don't. They're the only rankings that matter.
Okay.
Nothing else matters because, wait for it, nothing else has direct ramifications or consequences to anything meaningful in college football. It is at that point a wishful imagination, beauty, talent show.
That's right. The AP poll doesn't matter. But, Clint,
however,
let me start off the episode this way. It matters more this year than it ever has.
Why is that?
And I'm going to tell you why. Because the AP poll is a beauty pageant. Now, it's not the beauty pageant that matters, but it can be an indicator of future beauty pageants, a la the college football playoff rankings. Because if you think the college football playoff rankings are objective and you think they're not just a glorified beauty pageant, boy, do you have another thought coming. It's the college football playoff rankings are just a certain group of people leaning into their feelings and putting out a list of teams that they think are the best in college football. Now, the reason that these polls matter more this year, and the AP poll is an indicator of something that actually might matter late in the season this year, is because of the expanded playoff, Clint, more teams than ever are going to not win their conference championship. This is just math. And then get into the college football playoff. In fact, I can tell you exactly how many of them it will be. 7 different teams are going to not win their conference championship and get into the college football playoff.
5 highest rated conference champions automatically in. 4
plus a group of 5.
Thank you. Plus a group of 5.
So automatically 7 teams. That leaves 7 non-champions left. Now, you've got to be ranked ahead of those 7 non-champions. What are the things that are going to help you be ranked ahead? Well, Clint, obviously having a good record, winning your games and not losing your games is going to help you be ranked ahead. Yes, that's the same as it is every year. Your strength of schedule matters more this year than it does ever in years past, because the committee is going to be weighing those. Not all losses are created equal. When Penn State loses to Iowa, that won't be the same as when maybe Georgia slips up against a team like Texas. So not all losses will be created equal. Your strength of schedule will matter. And your national perception, Clint, will matter more this year than it has in years past. Now, so while the AP poll still technically doesn't matter at all, and that's been our hardline position, this year, I could almost talk myself into it being an indicator of something that actually will end up mattering, because Georgia's going to be pitted against teams. Let's say Georgia doesn't win the SEC. They're going to be pitted up against teams not in their conference. They're going to be pitted up against the Oregons of the world, the Penn States of the world, the Florida States of the world, and they're going to have a they're going to have to be perceived to be a better team than those other teams. So where you start is an indicator of that. Am I totally crazy on that point?
Georgia fans, get ready for the bucket. Previous years, you had to go undefeated or nearly undefeated to get in the college football playoff. Georgia last year, many of you much maligned that we did not get in, which again, Daniel and I, our view is that we shouldn't have gotten in. We're okay with not getting in.
That was the right thing.
The right thing. This year, it's not the case that repeated you get in. You're going to get in multiple ways. However, the higher you are now, the more slack you give yourself because of a whole slew of road games that you have to go on in the SEC, and might wind up dropping 2 of those games and still getting into the playoffs because you were the number 1 ranked team to begin with.
That it's maybe Clint, maybe even 3. There could be a 3-loss team in the playoff this year.
Absolutely.
And college football fans, this is not the content of today's show. We're going to talk about where Georgia's ranked and where the AP poll got it right, where they got it wrong. College football fans are going to have to come to grips with the fact that when a team with 3 losses beats a team that's undefeated in the national championship game and wins the national championship, college football fan, you got to ask yourself the question, are you going to be okay calling that team the national champion? Because, and I'm not saying that Georgia's going to have 3 losses this year, but the team with more losses that wins the national championship might be your team this year. Your team might be the one going into the college football playoff with losses that beats an undefeated team in the championship game. It's a tournament now. It's not the best team. We are not trying to decide the best team. We are trying to pick the team that wins the tournament. That's who the champion of college football is going to be. It's a bit of a different year. So what did the AP poll get right? What did the AP poll get wrong? We'll talk about that right after these.
And these are, in fact, FanDuel. FanDuel is fantastic. Daniel, I love them. The official sports book of Locked On Bulldogs, Locked On Podcasts, everywhere. Sports aren't sports and like you want. The Braves went ahead and took a whole bunch of West Coast games, but does it matter? I don't know. Baseball matters, though, to a whole bunch of people. And baseball is the way in which FanDuel, you go ahead and get bets in right now because they're the official partner of Major League Baseball. Whatever you want, there are bonus and boosts every single day, right?
Every day.
Now, all leading up to fall, all summer long. FanDuel.com. When you want bets, get on there right now, and whatever you dream up, you can make happen. Daniel and I will be next week talking about all about them bets. Season win totals is where you win money. We've been trying to tell you for years. Listen to us. It's where you make bank. FanDuel.com, the official sportsbook of Locked On Bulldogs, Locked On Podcasts everywhere. Daniel, the AP poll does, in fact, get a few things wrong and a few things right in the latest updates of who they think are the top dogs.
Give the people a rundown of the top 10 before we
here's what we need to do. We need to run through. I'm going to go 1 through 10 very quickly. Georgia 1, Ohio State 2, Oregon 3, Texas 4, Alabama 5, Ole Miss 6, Notre Dame 7, Penn State 8, Michigan 9, Florida State 10. We're going to stop there. There's a couple of more notable teams not in the top 10. We're going to ask Daniel. He's going to ask me who should be in the top 10 that's left out or who will be in the top 10 very soon. But Daniel, first glance at the top 10, Georgia, Ohio State, Oregon, Texas, Alabama, Ole Miss, Notre Dame, Penn State, Michigan, Florida State. What stands out to you from this ranking?
Well, I think there's a consensus across all of college football that going into the season, there are top 4 teams. And I honestly believe that with the exception of Texas, I don't think they belong in that top spot. I think you could make a case for putting either of those other 3 teams in the top spot. I'm not an insecure Georgia fan. I do think Georgia has among the most talented teams in the country, but I think Oregon and Ohio State have very formidable rosters, have very formidable teams. I would be fine with any of those 3 teams being in the top spot. I think Texas is obviously in the 4 hole. And so now we get to a bit more of the interesting conversation. What are your thoughts about Alabama there at number 5? On the one hand, it's a pretty lofty ranking for a team that's got a lot of question marks in my mind. On the other hand, I've been clear on this podcast. I am selling Alabama in the long term as a continuing dynasty under Kalen DeBoer. I don't think he has it. I don't think he will be it. But I am buying them in the short term. I think Alabama is going to be really good this year. I think Kalen DeBoer is going to, I think a lot of Georgia fans are going to get their feelings hurt about how good Jalen Milroe is this year, because Georgia fans love to make fun of Jalen Milroe, who torched us in the SEC championship game. So that makes a lot of sense to me why Georgia fans love going off on this kid. But I think Kalen DeBoer is going to make him a lot better. I'm actually buying Alabama in the short term, so I actually am fine with them being right there. I think Alabama is going to make the college football playoff. Even if they have a couple losses, I think being fifth, as I said in the first segment, I think being fifth for Alabama is really important for them, because I do think they're going to lose a couple games this year. And I still think they're going to squeak into that playoff, potentially as a lower seed, as a 10-2 team.
This is going to sound ridiculous. And Alabama fan, I often disrespect Alabama. This is not one of those times. I am not intending to disrespect you with this.
Okay. But
Kalen DeBoer made his bank taking less talented teams and bringing them up to the talent that they were playing. That's how he made his bank. Okay. He's a good developer.
Yeah.
Alabama is a less talented roster than they were last year. They have some key pieces, interior linemen, Milroe, and a pretty good defense returning interior as well. Depth is a huge issue. And I don't think they have the weapons they did last year, but Daniel, he's going to get them. If they play 16-7 games, 23-13 games, Milroe runs for 150, running backs, they have 300 yards on the ground. People want to come in and talk about what he did at Washington, getting Roma Dunze and a couple other guys, Penix to go ahead and play out.
They ain't got no Roma Dunze over there, y'all.
They ain't got no Roma Dunze
over there. They also don't have a quarterback either. They don't they're missing. He's not the same guy. He might be a better college quarterback, but he's not going to do the same thing that we saw last year from Michael Penix.
I'm fine with Alabama. 5, Daniel. You're exactly right. The thing.
What's your biggest grievance about the top 10, Clint?
I actually think Florida State might, but if they were higher than 10, I'd have a huge problem. But I actually like them at 10. They're a talented team, talented roster.
Okay,
that's fine. Michigan falling. Michigan's about to get an asterisk and probation. It's just a crap show over there. So whatever. My biggest problem, 2 of them. One, when are we going to learn about Penn State? When are we going to learn with Penn State? Everybody.
Here's the problem. They're going to go 10-2 again, and this year they're going to make the playoff for going 10-2. They're going to make the playoff. It's going to be the same. It's going to be the same thing.
No, but my biggest issue is number 6, Ole Miss. What are we doing?
You're not high on Ole Miss this year.
What? I was sky high on Ole Miss. I thought they brought in key pieces. I thought they have some consistency coming back. I like Lane Kiffin playing calls. Everybody else's love of Ole Miss. Look, when people zig, you zag. And too many of the people that I don't respect in sports are zigging, so I'm going to zag.
We still talking about FanDuel here? This is just betting advice 101.
This is betting advice. When everybody's zigging, you zag, you go against. This is betting. This is Ole Miss. I'm very low on Ole Miss.
Yeah.
6 is way too dang high, Daniel. I don't know what's happening.
Michigan's not going to finish the season. Michigan's not going to make the college football playoff. That's the other one to me. Is like I know the schedule's easy, and it is an easy schedule in the Big Ten. Stop me if you've heard that before. An easy schedule in the Big Ten, Clint. It's an easy schedule in the Big Ten. Is what it is. I don't care. Michigan doesn't have it. They're starting a guy at quarterback that's even worse than Cade McNamara, and so it's not good. They're not cheating anymore. That's not going to be advantageous for them. The head cheater is gone, and so they don't even have anybody smart enough to figure out how to cheat anymore, which is a problem. I think
literally
for them,
dressed a man up in a spy novel attire.
He literally walked to the sideline like this and was like, "You don't know."
Not exaggerating, literally.
Yeah, that's not. Yeah, I think the top 10 is a little interesting. We're going to talk in the next segment about a team outside the top 10 that we think is going to make the college football playoff, and a few last thoughts on the AP poll. But first, these.
These are, in fact, Game Time. Daniel and I love Game Time. You should too, because right now, Game Time is getting us into games all summer long. Major League Baseball is, in fact, here. Share a fond memory that you have with your family all summer long. Remember those times you went to the ballpark and you got your first scorecard, you got your first foul ball, you went with the glove and you tried to get the autographs. Get on over right now. Game Time gets you into the game. Last minute flash deals are fantastic. They're great. They're glorious. You need to get them. It's where you go for the cheapest tickets that you can find. We know this because Daniel and I have done this all the time. We're going to do it again. We're going to do it again.
We'll do it again.
And right now, the lowest price guarantee, Game Time will credit you up to 110% of the difference if you find a better, cheaper seat than on Game Time. They're going to take care of you. Take the guesswork out of buying LB tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use promo code LOCKEDONCollege, $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONCollege, $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed.
All right, Clint. We are talking about the AP poll. You listed the top 10. Let me rattle off the remainder of the top 25 for you. 11, Missouri. 12, Utah. Followed by LSU, Clemson, Tennessee, Oklahoma. Oklahoma State at 17, 16, 17 for the two schools from Oklahoma. Kansas State at 18, Miami at 19, Texas A&M at 20. Arizona 21, Kansas, USC, NC State, and Iowa round out the top 25. Clint, is there a team in there that you would be willing to bet actual money on making the college football playoff?
I don't know who. LSU at 13 is atrocious to me. That's a good squad, Daniel.
Oh, you think too low?
I think far too low.
You buying the quarterback? You buying the? We've seen him before. He's lit us up. So Georgia fans love this kid, because he lit us up for about 20 minutes in a game that didn't matter.
Didn't matter. I think LSU is far too low. I think they sneak into the college football playoff, and they're going to be a problem, Daniel. They're going to be a problem in the playoffs. I really, really do. So, I think. One more time, this is going to sound ludicrous. I think A&M is rightly ranked at 20. And if I was to pick an upside, A&M, I think actually has upside this year. Everybody talking downside when there was in the top 5, top 10. 20? I'm just here to tell you, that's a talented roster, Daniel, and a coach who's competent.
No. My man says, when are we going to learn
they're not in the top
about
10.
Penn State?
They're not in the top 10.
Then he says, I'm going to go Texas A&M, the ultimate when are we going to learn school? No, not for me. Missouri's not it this year. Last year was the year for Coach Drink. I think both Utah and Clemson are going to win their conferences and make the college football playoffs. So that's kind of a cheap pick, but I think Clemson's going to win the ACC. I think they're better than Florida State. I think they're going to beat Florida State. Please don't talk to me about Miami at all.
Do you know who coaches them?
Do not. So I think Clemson's going to win the ACC. Utah's going to win the Big 12. So both those teams are going to get in. But if I had to pick a non-conference champion from this group to make it into the playoff, okay, hear me out.
I'll listen.
What if Iowa? Clint.
Okay.
What?
Okay.
I said, hear me out.
I'm trying to listen.
No, I don't even feel like you are. What if Iowa, who has a reasonable schedule this year,
it's not bad.
You recall the quarterback got injured day one last year and so did not play. And you recall that Kurt Ferentz was forced to fire his own son from being the offensive coordinator because he failed to meet the criteria set for him by the athletic director. What if Iowa has even a marginal offense this year? I think there's a chance that a 9-3 team from the Big Ten makes it to the college football playoff. And I think Iowa's got a chance to go 10-2 this year. Let me tell you the games on Iowa's schedule that I know that they're going to lose. At Ohio State, on October the 5th. I have concluded the list of games that I know that Iowa's going to lose. I mean, this is a team that does not play Oregon, that does not play Michigan, that does not have to go up against some of the big boys in the conference. They're not going to be favored in all these games that they play, but Washington is a shell of its former self. They get Northwestern. UCLA is a terrible team. Maryland, Wisconsin, Michigan State, Minnesota. Clint, they might lose to Iowa State in week 2
and then
still go 10-2 on the year. And if a Big Ten team goes 10-2 on the year,
what happens?
There's a really good chance they're going to make the college football playoff. I'm telling you, if you want to take a flyer on somebody to make the college football playoff, you laughed at me when I said it. But now that I've run through the schedule, Clint, you tell me, is there 0 chance that Iowa makes the playoff? Like, is it a 0% chance?
0. Of course it's not 0. 0 would be ludicrous, Daniel. I'm not saying 0. Kurt Ferentz is still the head coach at Iowa.
He is.
Okay, well.
He is. But only for this year if he doesn't have an offense. Like, if he wouldn't change for his own son. But will he change for his own job?
Talk about the ultimate, either you're a great coach and a horrible father, or a good father and a horrible coach.
Iowa goes 10-2 this year, and they average 25 points a game. Kurt Ferentz is officially the worst father of all time. Like,
fired his own son.
Fired his own son, and then went to the college football playoff and got a lifetime extension at Iowa. It's amazing. Thanksgiving is going to be awkward.
So bad. All right, Daniel, let's also say a team in the top 10 that will finish unranked.
Team in the top 10 that's going to finish the season unranked. I actually think you have choices on this front.
I see 3 opportunities to bet if this was a bet.
Yeah. Ole Miss is not finishing the year unranked. And so if you're betting on a fall from Ole Miss, that's fine. It's not going to be unranked.
They're going to play too many teams ranked to follow the top 25.
I actually think your best shot at a school beginning this year in the top 10 and finishing the year unranked. It's probably Michigan.
It's Michigan.
It might be Florida State, even though it's hard to find losses on Florida State's schedule. But let's say Florida State has lost 3 games over the course of the year, right? Let's say it doesn't go great for them. And I think there's going to be some growing pains. Remember, DJU is the quarterback of Florida State this year, Clint.
Oh, I remember.
There's going to be some growing pains, even though I think Mike Norvell is much more equipped to get something out of DJU than Dabo Swinney and that team ever was. Let's say there's some growing pains, and Florida State goes into the game at the end of the year against Florida, already sitting at 8-3.
Mm-hmm.
The team's given up. You tell me they can't catch an L to Florida late in the year to put them at 8-4. That might be an unranked Florida State team. There's a chance.
10 is hard for that. Their schedule is favorable to them. It is Michigan. It's 8, 9, and 10 for me really are where you're going to take your flyers on. Alabama would have to really, really falter. That would mean Milroe is just awful. I
think have to go 7-5 to finish unranked. If Alabama's 8-4, they'll be ranked.
I think the floor for Alabama is very high this year.
Yeah, I think the floor is 9-3. I mean, the absolute bottom falling out is 9-3.
I agree.
There's no way they lose all the games that are questionable on their schedule.
They just have a more physically gifted runner of the football.
They're better than
anyone else
they play. Yeah,
right.
Except for a few.
Except for a few.
One notable.
Penn State, Michigan,
Florida. Their coaches that instilled toughness in players. They now coach for us.
Daniel, I regret to inform you. YouTube comment.
All right, I was going to start with opinions, but I'm just stating facts now.
YouTube comment would like to let you know that T-Rob was a hack and couldn't cut it at Alabama.
He can't cut it. That's why Kalen had to say, "You're out, son."
Didn't offer him a promotion with more money. Didn't do that.
No.
Penn State, Michigan, Florida State would be my 3. And of that crew, it's Michigan. Florida State would have to have some. Yeah. I mean, Uangale is a quarterback, and we know how that goes. Norvell would have to be the best whisperer of quarterbacks in the world. He is Daniel. I am Clint. This has been Locked On Bulldogs, part of Locked On Podcast, or your team every single day. We'll see you guys next time where we talk more dog football as we gear up because we are just days away, y'all. We'll talk to you guys then.
See ya.